And indeed it was a strange sight he saw. Every house was upside down and stood on its chimneys. The trees were upside down, their heads buried in the ground and their roots in the air, and the people walked upside down too. "They're walking on their hands with their legs in the air," said Joe. "Goodness, what a peculiar thing to do." Everyone stared at the folk of Topsy-Turvy Land. They got along very quickly on their hands and often stopped to talk to one another, chattering busily. Some of them had been shopping and carried their baskets on one foot. "Let's go and peep inside a house and see what it's like all topsy-turvy," said Joe. So they set off to the nearest house. It looked really peculiar, standing on its chimneys. No smoke came out of them, but smoke came out of a window near the top. "How do we get in?" said Beth. They watched a topsy-turvy man walk on his hands to another house. He jumped in at the nearest window, going up a ladder first. The children looked for the ladder, but entered the house they were near. They soon found it. They went up it to a window and peeped inside. "Gosh," said Joe, "everything really is upside down in it. The chairs and tables and everything. How uncomfortable it must be." An old lady was inside the house. She was sitting upside down in an upside-down chair and looked very uncomfortable. She was angry when she saw the children peeping in. She clapped her hands, and a tall man walking on his hands came running in from the next room. "Send those rude children away," shouted the old woman. The tall man hurried to the window on his hands, and the children quickly slid down the ladder because the man looked rather fierce. "It's a silly land, I think," said Joe. "I vote we just have our lunch and then leave this place. I wonder why everything is topsy-turvy." "Oh, a spell was put on everything and everybody," said Moonface, "and in an instant everything was topsy-turvy. Look, wouldn't that be a good place to sit and eat our lunch?" It was under a big oak tree whose roots stood high in the air. Joe and Moonface set out the lunch. It looked very good. "There's plenty for everybody," said Joe. "Have a sandwich, Silky. Saucepan, have a plum." "Crumb," said Saucepan in surprise. "Is that all you can spare for me? A crumb?" "Plum, plum," said Moonface, pushing a ripe one into Saucepan Man's hands. "Oh, plum," said Saucepan. "Well, why didn't you say so?" Everybody giggled. They all tucked into a good lunch. In the middle of it, Joe happened to look around and he saw something surprising. It was a policeman coming, walking on his hands, of course. Look what's coming," said Joe with a laugh. Everyone looked. Moonface went pale. "I don't like the look of him," he said. "Suppose he's come to lock us up or something." "We couldn't get away from the faraway tree before this land swung away from the top." The policeman came right up to the little crowd under the tree. "Why aren't you topsy-turvy?" he asked in a stern voice. "Don't you know that the rule of this land is that everything and everyone has to be upside down?" "Yes, but we don't belong to this silly land," said Joe. And there's a picture of the policeman upside down. And then them having their picnic. "And if you were sensible, you'd make another rule saying that everybody must be the right way up. You've just no idea how silly you look, policeman walking on your hands." The policeman went red with anger. He took a sort of wand from his belt and tapped Joe on the head with it. "Topsy-turvy," he said, "topsy-turvy." And to Joe's horror, he had to turn himself upside down at once. The others stared at poor Joe standing on his hands, his legs in the air. "Oh, fiddlesticks," cried Joe. "I can't eat anything properly now because I need my hands to walk with. Policeman, put me right again." "You are right now," said the policeman, and walked solemnly away on his hands. "Put Joe the right way up," said Rick. So everybody tried to turn him over so that he was the right way up again. But as soon as they got his legs down and his head up, he turned topsy-turvy again. He just couldn't help it because he was under a spell. A group of topsy-turvy people came to watch. They laughed loudly. "Now he belongs to Topsy-Turvy Land," they cried. "He'll have to stay here with us." "Never mind, young man. You'll soon get used to it." "Take me back to the faraway tree," begged Joe, afraid that he really and truly might be made to stay in this peculiar land. "Hurry!" Everybody jumped to their feet. They helped Joe along to where the hole ran down through the cloud. He wasn't used to walking on his hands, and he kept falling over. They tried their best to make him stand upright, but he couldn't. The spell wouldn't let him. "It will be difficult to get him down through the hole," said Rick. "Look, there it is." I'd better go down first and see if I can help him. You others push him through as carefully as you can. He'll have to go upside down, I'm afraid. We'll find out what happens next week. Bye.